The revelation came through a routine analysis of social media influence patterns. Dr. Chen was studying how the Academy Network's educational content was spreading online when she discovered something that made her blood run cold. Embedded within Hikaru Nakamura's massively popular streaming content were subtle propaganda elements that had been systematically undermining trust in traditional chess education while promoting the very manipulation techniques Kasparov's network had used for decades. You see, what Magnus Carlsen and the chess legends were about to discover would force them to confront their most painful truth yet. The platform that millions of young chess fans trusted for entertainment and education had been inadvertently serving as a delivery system for sleeper agent messaging. And Hikaru himself had no idea that his content was being used to corrupt the minds of the next generation. Magnus sat in stunned silence as Dr. Chen presented her findings to the assembled chess legends. Anand, Kramnik, Spassky, and Polgar studied the technical analysis that revealed how sophisticated psychological manipulation had been woven into seemingly innocent chess commentary and entertainment. The integration is incredibly subtle, Dr. Chen explained, highlighting specific examples. Messages that normalize cheating as strategic thinking, commentary that presents manipulation as advanced psychology, even jokes that gradually desensitize viewers to the idea that corruption is inevitable in competitive environments. The propaganda wasn't obvious enough to be detected by casual viewers, but it was persistent and comprehensive enough to shape attitudes over time. Young chess players who consumed hours of Hikaru's content were being gradually conditioned to accept the very corruption that Magnus and the legends had fought to eliminate. "How long has this been happening?" Kramnik asked, his expression grim. "Based on the pattern analysis, approximately 18 months, Dr. Chen replied. The messaging became more sophisticated and pervasive after the initial rebellion began, suggesting it was part of a coordinated response to our educational efforts. Magnus felt sick as he realized the implications. While they had been building academies to teach integrity and independent thinking, sleeper agents had been using the most popular chess content creator in the world to undermine those very principles. "Does Hikaru know?" Polgar asked the question. Everyone was dreading. "The evidence suggests he's completely unaware," Dr. Chen confirmed. "The manipulation appears to be occurring through his production team, guest appearances, and even viewer comments that are algorithmically promoted to shape discussion topics." Anand studied the technical documentation with the analytical mind that had made him world champion. "This explains some troubling trends we've noticed in young players from our academies. Occasional comments and attitudes that seemed inconsistent with their educational background. The sleeper agents had found a way to reach the academy students despite all the protections and educational safeguards that had been implemented. By targeting the entertainment content they consumed in their free time, the manipulation network had maintained influence even over students in integrity-focused programs. "We have to tell him," Magnus decided. "Hikaru deserves to know that his platform is being used this way." But approaching Hikaru presented unique challenges. His streaming schedule was public, his interactions were constantly monitored by millions of viewers, and any dramatic change in his content or behavior would immediately attract attention from both fans and remaining sleeper agents. More importantly, Spassky observed with characteristic wisdom, "We need to understand how deep this manipulation goes. If they can corrupt Hikaru's platform without his knowledge, what other content creators and educational resources have been compromised?" The investigation expanded rapidly as Dr. Chen's analysis revealed similar patterns across multiple chess content platforms. YouTube channels, educational websites, even chess software and mobile apps contained subtle messaging designed to normalize corruption and undermine traditional values of sportsmanship and integrity. This is more sophisticated than anything Kasparov implemented during his active manipulation period, Kramnik noted. The sleeper agents have adapted to digital media in ways that make their influence nearly invisible. Magnus realized they were confronting a form of cultural warfare that was far more insidious than the direct corruption and intimidation tactics they had previously fought. Instead of threatening individual players, the sleeper agents were slowly poisoning the intellectual environment that shaped how young people thought about chess and competition. The Content Authenticity Protocol, Magnus said, beginning to formulate a response strategy. We need to develop methods for identifying and countering this kind of manipulation, while protecting content creators who are being used without their knowledge. The chess legends agreed that confronting Hikaru required delicate handling. His influence was too important to risk alienating, but the manipulation of his platform posed too great a threat to ignore. They arranged a private meeting through intermediaries, avoiding any digital communication that might be monitored. The location was carefully chosen, a quiet restaurant in Los Angeles where Hikaru could meet without attracting attention or speculation from his streaming audience. Magnus watched Hikaru's expression transform from casual friendliness to horror as they presented the evidence of how his content had been corrupted. The technical analysis was undeniable. Months of subtle messaging had been embedded in his streams through methods he had never suspected. "This is impossible," Hikaru said, studying the documentation. "I control every aspect of my content. I review everything before it goes live. The manipulation is occurring through vectors you wouldn't think to monitor," Dr. Chen explained. Promoted comments that shape conversation topics, guest appearances who introduce specific talking points, even algorithmic recommendation patterns that influence what clips become popular. Magnus could see the emotional impact on Hikaru as he realized how completely his platform had been compromised. Years of work building trust with millions of chess fans had been systematically exploited to spread the very corruption he had always opposed. "What do you want me to do?" Hikaru asked. "Shut down the stream? Make a public announcement? How do I fix this without destroying everything I've built?" "That's exactly what the sleeper agents are hoping for," Anand replied. "They want you to either continue spreading their messaging unknowingly or destroy your platform trying to stop them. Neither outcome serves the chess community." The chess legends had anticipated this dilemma and developed a comprehensive response strategy. Rather than dramatic action that might alert the sleeper agents, they would implement gradual countermeasures, while documenting the manipulation network for eventual exposure. The Content Authenticity Protocol works in phases, Magnus explained. First, we neutralize the current manipulation without alerting those responsible. Then we trace the network to identify all compromised platforms. Finally, we implement permanent safeguards to prevent future infiltration. Hikaru agreed to cooperate, but the process required him to fundamentally change how he managed his content while making those changes appear natural and unrelated to any external pressure. New screening procedures for guests, modified interaction, with viewer comments, and subtle shifts in discussion topics that would gradually counteract months of propaganda. The most important element, Polgar emphasized, is education. Your audience needs to develop critical thinking skills that will protect them from manipulation, regardless of its source. Over the following weeks, Magnus worked with Hikaru to implement content changes that would serve the educational goals of the Academy network while maintaining the entertainment value that made his streams popular. Chess analysis that emphasized integrity over cleverness. Commentary that promoted independent thinking rather than following authority. Discussions that celebrated authentic achievement rather than manufactured success. The response has been remarkable, Hikaru reported during one of their follow-up meetings. Viewer engagement is actually increasing as we focus more on educational content and critical thinking. But the sleeper agents weren't passive observers. As Hikaru's content gradually shifted away from their messaging, they began implementing countermeasures. Technical problems during streams, coordinated harassment campaigns against guests who promoted educational values, even attempts to hack Hikaru's accounts and post content designed to damage his reputation. "They're getting desperate," Magnus observed as they dealt with the latest wave of attacks. Which means our countermeasures are working. The Content Authenticity Protocol revealed the scope of media manipulation that extended far beyond chess. Educational content across multiple platforms and subjects had been subtly corrupted to promote cynicism, normalize corruption, and discourage independent thinking. This is what we're really fighting, Anand realized as they studied the broader patterns. Not just corruption in chess tournaments, but the systematic destruction of intellectual integrity across all educational media. Magnus understood that their victory would require more than just protecting Hikaru's platform. They needed to develop technologies and educational methods that could help content creators and audiences identify and resist manipulation, regardless of how sophisticated it became. The final phase, Magnus announced as they prepared to expand their countermeasures, requires us to make the public aware of these manipulation techniques without creating panic or destroying trust in legitimate educational content. The chess legends faced their most delicate challenge yet, exposing a form of cultural warfare that most people didn't even know existed, while preserving faith in authentic educational content and maintaining the trust that made platforms like Hikaru's valuable for legitimate learning. Content authenticity isn't just about chess, Magnus concluded. It's about preserving the ability to learn and think independently in an environment where powerful interests want to control what people believe and how they make decisions. As they prepared for the final confrontation with the sleeper agent network, Magnus realized that victory would require not just defeating the manipulators, but building educational systems resilient enough to resist future attempts at corruption. The war for chess's soul had become a war for intellectual freedom itself, and the outcome would determine whether future generations could trust what they learned from the content they consumed. The Content Authenticity Protocol was just the beginning of a much larger battle for the integrity of human knowledge and education.